Alien girl was forced to marry a human as punishment, but his first touch made her beg for more. If you want to know how he touched her, please like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel to know. And now I will tell you how she begged. Let's get started. Crystalline walls rose around her, like frozen starlight catching the glow of distant nebulae. Commander Selene Ardent hovered inside those gravity cuffs, wrists pinned gently but firmly to her sides, her boots dangling just a handspan above the polished tribunal deck. She kept her chin level, eyes fixed on the far wall where holographic indictments flickered. 12 counts of decree violation, each one a nail in what should have been her coffin. The air hummed with ozone, carried the faint metallic tang of old oaths sworn and broken. 7 counselors perched on their levitating thrones, neural crowns pulsing in slow synchrony, threads of light weaving between them like shared secrets. Their robes shifted colors with every breath, silver to storm gray, as if the fabric itself debated her fate. Selene felt the weight of their gaze heavier than any chain. The flagship's log unfolded in silence above the chamber, a ghost projection. Her bridge, dim red emergency lights. 12 warheads streaking down toward that fragile blue-green world. 4 billion souls blinking out if she did nothing. Selene's recorded voice cut through, calm as vacuum. "Intercept! All batteries! Now!" White fire bloomed across the feed. Zeth interceptors glinted for half a heartbeat on primitive human scopes. Exposure. Breach. The decree shattered like glass. Counselor Lyra leaned forward, her crown flaring violet. "Execution is, clean," she murmured, fingers drumming once on the armrest. "But symbolism lingers." She glanced at the others, a small tilt of the head. "Marry her to one of theirs. Let the galaxy watch the traitor kneel, and rise perhaps as a bridge." Selene's pulse stayed steady, but her fingers curled inside the cuffs. Just a fraction, nails biting into palms. "Honor demands death," a quiet voice whispered in her skull. "But survival might demand more." She swallowed, throat dry, and kept her face a mask. They dragged Elias Drake in next, chains rattling softly against the deck. Dust from some penal moon still powdered his flight jacket. Collar turned up like he expected a storm. Once he'd danced fighters through Zeth kill zones, leaving scouts spinning. Now his shoulders carried the slump of a man who'd traded cockpits for cell blocks. The offer slid across the hollow table. Reinstatement, a shiny new title, a wife he'd never met. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes flicking to Selene, then away. "Well, guess that's what passes for mercy around here." The ceremony came together fast. Too fast. Holographic banners unfurled overhead. Twin constellations twisting into a knot that looked more like a noose. Selene stood rigid in her dress armor, silver plates etched with the victories she just lost, each engraving a reminder. Elias shifted in borrowed robes, fabric pooling at his boots, 2 sizes too big, like the whole thing was a bad joke. No music drifted through the chamber. No vows passed their lips. Only the Empress's seal pulsed between them, a cold blue brand binding what neither had chosen. Ether's veil loomed 400 kilometers up, a diplomatic ring spinning lazy orbits around Zeth Prime's amber storms. Their new home, 1 bedroom with a divider that hummed when folded, 2 desks facing opposite walls, a wide viewport framing the planet's swirling clouds. Drones nested in the vents, lenses blinking like patient eyes recording every breath. First night settled in slow. Selene unrolled star charts across the table, fingers tracing old patrol lanes. Lanes she'd commanded, now just lines on glowing parchment. She leaned closer, breath fogging the surface for a second, then wiped it clear with her sleeve. Elias sat across from her, Whetstone whispering against that slim knife he shouldn't have smuggled aboard. Stroke, pause, stroke. The sound filled the room, steady as a heartbeat. Neither looked up. Selene's reflection stared back from the viewport, eyes too sharp, mouth drawn tight, like she was holding back a storm. Elias tested the blade's edge against his thumb, winced just enough to draw a bead of red, then smiled without any real humor. "Sharp enough," he muttered, more to the knife than to her. He wiped the thumb on his pants, leaving a faint smear. Hours slipped by. quiet as drifting dust. Celine rolled the charts tighter, knuckles white. Elias flipped the knife, caught it by the handle, once, twice, then set it down with a soft click. The viewport showed Zeth Prime turning below, storms crawling across continents like living things. A soft chime broke the hush. Garden access. Council's little gift, a hydroponic dome where gravity dialed to 1 GT for human comfort. Celine hesitated, hand hovering over the door panel, then pressed through. Elias followed, knife vanishing up his sleeve with a practiced flick. The iris door spiraled open, mist curling out like breath on a cold morning. Inside, vines hung heavy with violet fruit, leaves brushing their shoulders as they walked the central path. Celine's boots sank into moss, silent. Elias trailed 3 paces back, eyes scanning corners, old pilot habits dying hard. "Nice prison," he said, voice low, kicking at a pebble that floated lazily in the adjusted grav. At least the view beat staring at rock walls. She didn't answer right away. A maintenance drone drifted past, lens whirring softly, cataloging. Celine's hand brushed a blossom, petals unfolded slow, like tiny shields catching the light. Somewhere deep in the foliage, a timer ticked, soft, patient, inevitable. The chime again, sharper this time, insistent. Celine turned, brow creasing. Elias's eyes snapped wide. The world folded into white. Glass shattered outward, becoming shrapnel suspended in sudden 0G. Violet nutrient mist flash-boiled, swirling with fragments of leaf and stem. Celine's armor locked rigid as the dome ruptured around her. Emergency pods punched from the walls, 2 sleek cocoons slamming shut, seals hissing. Alarms wailed for a heartbeat, then cut to vacuum silence. Shards hung mid-air, catching station lights like a storm of frozen stars. Celine's pod spun lazy, viewport fogging with her breath. Through it, she caught Elias's face, mouth open in a shout lost to space, hand reaching toward her pod, fingers splayed wide against the transparent alloy. His eyes locked on hers, something raw flickering there. Surprise, maybe, or the first crack in the wall. Then rotation carried him out of sight, and the garden kept exploding, perfect and soundless, shards drifting like the galaxy itself had paused to watch. Pods tumbled, end over end through the ruptured corridor, station alarms fading into the hush of vacuum. Celine's cocoon locked against the bulkhead with a dull magnetic clunk, stabilizers humming as they fought the spin. Through the narrow viewport, debris drifted lazy, twisted girders, violet mist freezing into glittering clouds, shards of glass catching emergency strobes like scattered diamonds. Her armor's HUD blinked urgent red, dome integrity 0, but pod pressure held. She exhaled slow, steady, fingers flexing inside the gloves. Seals hissed open. Celine pushed free, boots snapping to the deck with a sharp click, lungs drawing in air thick with burnt polymers and something sweeter, nutrient residue. Medical drones descended in a swarm, lights pulsing, injectors extending like curious fingers. She batted one away with a swift backhand, not now, and scanned the chaos. Elias's pod cracked across the way. He tumbled out, knees buckling, one hand slamming the wall for balance, while the other clutched his ribs. Bandages unrolled from his jacket, auto-wrapping tight, fabric blooming pink where blood seeped through. Zeth's cells knit quick. Celine felt the sting along her forearms fade, skin pulling together, warm and itchy. But Elias, he doubled over, coughing wet and ragged, face paling under the lights. "Lungs! Feel like I swallowed sandpaper," he wheezed, straightening inch by inch, forcing that lopsided grin. His eyes watered, but he blinked it back, stubborn. "Hey, you okay?" he called, voice cracking halfway, gesturing vaguely at her arms. Celine glanced down, shallow cuts already closing, then met his gaze, nodding once. "Fine," she said, clipped, but her hand lingered on a drone's injector, pushing it gentler this time toward him. "Sit. Let it work." He waved her off, but sank against the wall anyway, sliding down a bit before catching himself. "Sit? Nah, I'm good. Just need a minute." A drone hovered persistent. He let it jab his neck, wincing sharp. "Ow!" Friendly little buggers. Security feeds materialized midair, looping the explosion in crisp detail. The device's pulse matched Celine's heartbeat, bio-keyed, intimate. Yet Elias's pod showed crossed wires, a sloppy secondary charge. Investigators popped in hollow, helms gleaming. Human tech, the lead snapped, folding arms. Sloppy, vengeance for the marriage. Celine knelt by the scorch mark, gloved fingers tracing the perfect sphere. Zeth engineering, no doubt. She rose slow, jaw clenched so tight it ached. No, she said, voice low but edged. This was us, our precision. Elias pushed upright, grimacing with the effort, and shuffled over. Us meaning Zeth? He squinted at the pattern, then at her face. Your people don't do half measures, huh? Guess we're both popular targets now, he added, the quip light, but his free hand rubbed his side absently, knuckles whitening. Celine's glare snapped to him, fierce, searching, then eased, her shoulders dropping a fraction. Popular, she echoed, dry, or expendable. She turned away quick, but not before he caught the flicker. Anger, maybe betrayal. Council pinged access. Prove your loyalty. The vault door irised wide, data spines glowing cool blue. Celine jacked in first, neural link clicking home with a soft snick. Elias leaned over her shoulder, breath steadying as painkillers kicked in. Feed scrolled. Corvette reroutes. Varos's seal stamped bold. 3 ships vanished from logs the day of the blast. Her fingers froze on the console. Varos, his voice in her memory, praising her first kill. She yanked the jack free, slow, eyes narrowing to slits. Him, she whispered, more to herself. Elias tilted his head. That, the mentor guy, the one who taught me everything, she cut in, voice flat but trembling at the edges. She paced 2 steps, stopped, fists clenching. Why? A ping, anonymous, bouncing relays. Off-world next. Trust nothing. Celine's hand balled tight, nails biting palm. Elias read it, let out a low whistle. Well, that's not creepy at all. He rubbed his neck, glancing at her. You believe it? She met his eyes, steady now. I have to. A pause, softer. We have to. Council orders dropped. Concordant dawn. Protective relocation. Celine packed sparse. Data pad. Rolled charts. Elias zipped the medkit into his jacket, fingers hesitating on the pull. Stocking up? She asked, eyebrow arched. Call it optimism, he said, shrugging, but his grip tightened. Escorts marched them aboard, boots echoing. Bridge crew stood crisp, but eyes slid away. Elias buckled in, patted the seat. Comfier than penal runs. Don't get used to it, she muttered, but sat beside him, close enough their shoulders brushed. Engines thrummed, pressing them back as the ship hit 0.3 C. Stars stretched. Celine eyed the warp panel, curve climbing, then spiking hard. Too hard. She unbuckled halfway, leaning in. That's wrong. Elias followed her gaze. Wrong how? Power for a battleship, she said, thumb hovering over comms. The spike held, surged. Her hand dropped to his arm. Brief, firm. Hold on. Deep in the core, the cascade ignited, silent, ravenous, racing toward them both. Fast alarms ripped through the bridge like shrapnel. Red strobes slashing across faces twisted in raw panic. The concordant dawn bucked hard, deck plates vibrating up through their boots, a deep groan echoing from the core. Celine's grip clamped on Elias's arm, fingers digging deep before she released, surging toward the nearest console. Reactor cascade, containment's gone, she shouted, hands blurring over holographic keys, overrides flashing denied in angry crimson. Elias yanked free of his harness, ribs screaming with the twist, but he forced himself upright, stumbling to her side. What did they do? He leaned over the readout, eyes widening at the energy spike clawing toward critical. Celine's face hardened, lips thinning to a line. Varos's codes. He's locking us out. Everything. Bulkheads crashed down in sequence, seals slamming like guillotines. A young ensign pounded on the transparent divider, fists blurring, mouth wide in a plea lost to the roar. Celine's fist slammed the panel, crack echoing. Then she whirled, grabbing Elias's sleeve in a vice. "Pod Bay, go, go!" They bolted, corridors narrowing under emergency compression. Elias half a step behind, hand pressed hard to his side where bandages pulled tight. "This your fleet's version of a rescue?" he panted, shoulder clipping hers in the chaos. Celine didn't break stride, but her glance flicked back, eyes flashing fire. "Not my fleet. Not anymore." Pod bay doors irised with a tortured screech, revealing the sleek two-seater scout pod clamped in its cradle. Celine shoved Elias through first, palms flat on his back, urgent, unyielding. "In harness!" He dove into the seat, fingers fumbling buckles, breath hitching as pain lanced through. "You always this gentle with passengers?" "Only the ones I need alive," she shot back, sliding into pilot position, neural jack snapping home with a decisive click. Launch initiators glowed green, thrusters igniting as the cruiser's spine twisted behind them. The concordant dawn erupted in a bloom of silent plasma, hull peeling open like flower petals in hell. The pod jettisoned clear, spinning wild through the debris field. Telemetry wailed, Valera 9 locked in, 1.8 G surface, atmosphere laced with neurotoxins that'd chew Zeth lungs in hours. Celine wrestled the attitude thrusters, knuckles white on controls, stabilizing their tumble. Elias braced against the dash, face pale under the strobes. "Valera? That rock's a graveyard. Heard pilots call it the Purple Widow." "Stories later," she gritted, eyes locked on the viewport. Violet storms churning below like living ink. Re-entry warnings shrieked. Heat shields glowed incandescent. The pod dove, shaking violent, G-forces slamming them into seats. Atmosphere clawed at the hull. Friction fire streaking past. Celine adjusted pitch, sweat beading on her brow. Elias gripped the co-pilot yoke, pulling in sync without asking. "Left, 3 degrees." She followed his call, pod leveling just enough. Impact cratered the fungal mat, pod splitting with a metallic scream, halves peeling apart in a spray of steam and spores. Celine kicked her hatch free, acid rain hissing on exposed alloy, and reached back for Elias. "Out now!" He scrambled, legs buckling under the sudden weight of 1.8 G, crashing to his knees in the muck. She hauled him up by the collar, arm around his waist, a support masked as urgency. Rain pelted them, stinging skin. Celine's breath hitched sharp, lungs contracting, CO2 overload hitting like a hammer. She staggered, dropping to one knee, hand clawing at her throat. Elias saw, eyes widening, panic flashing before he shoved it down. "Hey, stay with me!" He ripped open the emergency kit, hands steady despite the tremor, yanking out the oxygen mask. He knelt beside her, fitting the mask gentle over her face, adjusting straps with careful tugs. "Breathe, slow, in and out." Celine inhaled ragged, then deeper color creeping back to her cheeks. Her hand caught his wrist, brief squeeze, eyes meeting his through the visor. "I owe you." He shook his head, helping her stand. "Add it to the tab. We're even soon enough." But his arm lingered around her shoulders a second longer, steadying. Dusk swallowed the jungle fast, bioluminescent fungi pulsing to life, predators slinking from shadows, eyes reflecting the pod's dying lights. Elias struck a flare, orange bloom pushing back the dark. He planted himself between Celine and the tree line, flare high, free hand hovering near her elbow. "Welcome to my kind of war," he said, voice low, but the set of his jaw said he'd fight the planet itself if it came for her. Celine tested her legs, mask fogging rhythmic, then scavenged a jagged pod panel, improvised shield. "Night's theirs," she murmured, stepping closer to the light. "We take it back." Predators growled, circling tighter. Elias shifted the flare, eyes scanning. "Plan. Survive till dawn," she said, grip tightening on the panel. "Then we hunt the hunter." He nodded, bumping her shoulder, deliberate. "Together, then?" A beat. Her eyes softened behind the mask. "Together." Electric skies cracked overhead, thunder rolling like distant artillery as the jungle watched and waited. Fungus gave way with wet pops under every step. The pod's twisted remains cooling in the violet haze behind them. Celine tested the oxygen mask again, seal whispering against her skin, while Elias knelt by the open emergency locker, inventorying with quick, practiced motions. Plasma cutter, compact med kit, ration bricks stacked neat, water purifier tabs rattling in a pouch. He slung the cutter's strap across his chest, grunting soft as it tugged his bandages. "Travel light, fight dirty," he said, tossing her a ration bar. She snatched it mid-air, fingers brushing his, brief contact, then tucked it into her belt without a word. 1.8 G weighed them down like lead cloaks, each movement deliberate. Elias paused, rolling his shoulders, neck cracking loud in the quiet. "All right, princess. Lesson 1 in Deathworld walking. Stay low, keep your center." He dropped into a crouch, demonstrating, knees bent, steps short, sliding through the muck without splashing. Celine watched, then mirrored, armor servos humming faint protest. "Your turn to teach," she said, voice steady through the mask. He straightened a bit, eyes lighting. "Zeth battle sign. Go." She lifted her hand, fingers flashing, advanced quiet, eyes sharp. Elias copied, clumsy first, thumbs wrong, then nailed it on the second try. "Like that?" She nodded once, corners of her eyes crinkling behind the visor. "Faster next time. Lives depend on it." The jungle held its breath, then exploded. A six-legged shadow panther lunged from the ferns, stripes pulsing electric blue, claws extended. Celine's energy blade sparked to life, dim, battery draining, but she swung wide, forcing it back. The beast roared, dodging, raking her armor with a screech. Elias rolled under the arc, vibro knife humming, plunging it deep into the throat. Hot blood sprayed, sizzling on leaves. The panther convulsed, collapsing in a heap. Celine powered down the blade, chest heaving, mask fogging rapid. Elias yanked the knife free, wiping it on his thigh, hands shaking before he clenched it still. "Your swing's solid," he panted, forcing a grin. She stepped close, checking the gashes on his arm, shallow but bleeding. "You bleed for me again?" Her tone sharp, but fingers gentle, applying a sealant patch. He hissed at the sting, then shrugged. "Old habit. Don't make it yours." High above, a Zeth scout drone whispered through clouds, lens irising on the fresh kill. Pilot's voice, private channel. Princess in the dirt, blade flickering. Human gutting beasts for her. What's the Empire coming to? The drone banked sharp, signal fading into storm static. They pressed on, Elias hacking vines with the plasma cutter, blue arc slicing clean. Celine signed clear left, then hold at a suspicious shadow. He froze, nodding, then motioned advance. "You're getting it," she murmured, approval soft. Rain tapered to mist. Glowing moss marked a cavern entrance. Air cooler inside. "Shelter," Elias said, ducking in first, flare raised high. Dry, defensible, perfect. Celine leaned against the wall, sliding down slow, mask coming off for the first time. Cave air filtered clean. Fever crept in sudden, toxins finally winning. She shivered hard, teeth chattering. Elias dropped the pack, scanner beeping frantic. "Temp 105. Hold on." He prepped a hypo, pressing it to her neck. Cool flood of meds. Celine's hand grabbed his sleeve weak. "Varos. He said I'd command fleets," she whispered, eyes unfocused, drifting. Dreams pulled her. Zeth academies, crisp salutes, Varos pinning her insignia. "Proud of you, Ardent. Stars are yours." She thrashed, soft, murmuring denials. Elias settled beside her, back to wall, watching the entrance. He unwrapped a ration, chewed mechanical, then spoke low to the shadows. "My disgrace? Refused to bomb a refugee convoy? Kids waving from viewports? Couldn't pull the trigger." His voice cracked, fist thumping his knee once. "Lost everything. But I sleep at night." Rain hammered the entrance, wind howling. Cold seeped in. Elias scooted closer, draping his jacket over her without fanfare. Celine stirred, eyes cracking open. "You'll freeze," she protested weak. "I run hot," he said, shrugging. She pulled it tighter anyway, scooting until shoulders touched. Shared warmth, unspoken. Dawn seeped green through moss curtains. Celine woke clearer, fever broken, mask dangling loose. Elias carved another tally. 4 grooves now. He noticed her gaze, added a 5th deliberate. Day 4, he said, blowing stone dust. Or 5, lost count in the rain. She stood slow, stretching, then traced ceiling runes, glowing faint under her touch. Ancient outpost marker. Temple, 3 days west. Elias pocketed the knife, slinging the pack. West it is, lead commander. Runes flickered brighter at her fingertips, whispering promises of answers deeper in the violet wild, as distant thunder echoed like footsteps closing in. Vines snaked across the trail like living barriers, thick as ship cables, pulsing with faint bioluminescent veins that cast eerie, shifting shadows on the spongy fungal floor. Celine led the way, plasma cutter humming in controlled bursts, blue arc slicing clean through the growth, steam hissing sharp where sap met superheated edge. Elias guarded the rear, vibro knife flipped ready in his grip, signing all clear with a quick thumb up every ridge they crested. 3 days had melted into a hard-won rhythm, ration crumbs shared at dusk under flare glow, water sipped from the last purifier tabs, nights pressed back-to-back trading quiet stories, him recounting penal moon pranks to lighten the dark, her admitting fleet drills that left cadets vomiting in zero-G spins. Sweat traced salty lines down Celine's neck, armor chafing despite the loosened straps. Higher altitude thinned the neurotoxins, mask dangling unused at her belt like a forgotten badge. Elias paused mid-step, digging the final purifier tab from his pocket, holding it out on his open palm. You're breathing heavier than yesterday. Take it, no arguments. She stopped, eyes flicking to his cracked lips, then to the tab. We're both dehydrated, she countered, breaking the tab crisp, half for each. We share or we don't. She pressed his piece into his palm, fingers lingering warm, deliberate. He popped it, grinning crooked. Stubborn as hull plating. Suits you, Commander? The jungle parted, sudden. A hush falling like a curtain drawn across the world. The pyramid loomed from the mist, step-terrace stone swallowed halfway by roots that twisted like ancient fingers, clutching secrets long buried. Zeth glyphs etched deep, weathered but glowing faint under moss. Oath markers from a forgotten era. Celine froze, cutter lowering slow, breath catching audible in the stillness. This shouldn't be here, she whispered, stepping forward reverent, hand tracing a glyph that pulsed warmer under her touch. It's pre-Empire. Oath site. Elias circled wide, knife raised, eyes scanning for movement. Every shadow a threat. Feels watched, he muttered, boot testing a loose stone. Nothing shifted, but the air thickened. Geothermal vents exhaling warm breaths that carried distant echoes like whispers in an empty hall. You hearing that? Celine tilted her head, listening. Old power conduits. Still cycling. She signed hold position, then advanced slow. He nodded, falling in beside her, shoulder brushing deliberate, reassurance in the uncanny quiet. If this place eats us, I blame you, he said, half joking, but his grip tightened on the knife. They climbed the steps cautious, moss slick under boots, vines parting almost willingly, as if the temple recognized Zeth blood. Entrance gaped black, vents sighing steam that smelled of minerals and old power, warm against their faces. Celine ignited a hand loom, beam cutting the dark, revealing the obelisk at center, crystalline core throbbing soft blue, intact after centuries. Data vault, she breathed, jacking neural link with a decisive click. Elias posted at the door, flare ready in one hand, knife in the other. Make it quick. Place gives me the creeps, like it's waiting. Data surged through her HUD. Varos's private logs, voice cold and clipped. The marriage is a cancer. Eliminate at any cost. Preserve Zeth purity. No witnesses. Celine's hands trembled on the console, pulling back sharp as if burned. He ordered the garden, the ship, everything. Coordinates overlaid. Second kill team dropping. ETA 2 hours. Elias leaned in close, face hardening under the loom. Your mentor's playing for keeps. How deep does this go? Deep enough to bury us, she said, voice cracking just once before she swallowed it. She extracted the crystal shard, tiny, iridescent, no bigger than a tooth. Swallowable if captured, Elias watched her slip it into a cheek pouch, then rigged the temple defenses, particle lances coughing dust as they powered up, beams calibrating with ancient whirs that echoed like ghosts waking. "Buy us time," he said, wiring sloppy but effective, wiping sweat with his sleeve. "You sure about this shard?" Celine met his eyes, steady now. "It's proof, or it's nothing." From low orbit, Lieutenant Vex monitored thermals. 2 blips steady in the temple glow, unmoving, still alive, still breathing defiance. Orders are absolute. Erase the mistake, bury the evidence. He keyed drop pods, thrusters igniting silent, descent trails faint against the storm. Celine hesitated at the altar, fingers hovering over the shard's pouch. "Bringing this back. It shatters the council, the fleet, everything I swore to." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. Firm squeeze, grounding. "Better shattered truth than poisoned lies. We end this, Celine. Together." She nodded slow, covering his hand with hers. Brief, warm. "Together." Alarms echoed faint. Breach at the entrance. Plasma torches carving stone with screeching fury. Elias slammed the trigger, particle fire erupting in blinding streaks, vaporizing 2 intruders in showers of sparks and screams cut short. "Go! Rear tunnel now!" Celine grabbed his arm, yanking him back as rubble rained, her other hand firing the plasma cutter in wide arcs to cover retreat. "Not leaving you!" she shouted over the chaos. They sprinted, boots pounding slick stone, enemy shouts closing fast. "Fan out! They have the vault!" Rear passage narrowed, sudden, river roaring ahead, water black and swift under glowing fungi ceilings. Celine dove without hesitation, shard clenched in teeth, current slamming cold. Elias followed, shock of water stealing breath. Darkness swirled. He kicked hard, hand thrusting out blind. Found hers, fingers interlocking tight as iron. "Got you! Kick with me!" he yelled through bubbles. She pulled him close, legs sinking, trust forged in the rush, lungs burning. The river hurled them into open canyon, moonlight fracturing on churning water. Drop pod trails streaking fire across the night sky, like omens closing fast. Engines rumbling distant thunder. Canyon walls blurred past in a roar of white water. The river finally spitting them onto a gravel bank under fractured moonlight. Foam churning like angry ghosts. Celine coughed hard, rolling to her knees in the mud. Shard still clenched, safe in her teeth. She spat it into her palm, slick but intact, fingers trembling as she wiped it clean on her thigh. Elias hauled himself up beside her, gasping ragged, water streaming from his hair and jacket. "You ain't good? Talk to me," he rasped, hand slamming to her back, firm, checking for wounds, voice cracking with raw worry. She nodded sharp, but her fingers gripped his sleeve tight, knuckles bone white, pulling him closer without thinking. "Alive? Thanks to you. Don't you dare let go next time." Drop pod thrusters screamed overhead, 3 streaks burning atmosphere, red hot, impacting hard in the jungle behind, with ground-shaking thuds. Celine's eyes widened, fear flashing raw, visceral before she shoved it down with a sharp inhale. "They're here. Vex's team." Elias scanned the ridge frantic, spotting a faint distress beacon blinking on a pod fragment washed ashore. "Patrol ship. Zeth's signature closing fast. We signal, we live. We hide. We die tired and cold." She hesitated, shard hitting quick in her boot sole, fingers fumbling, heart pounding audible. "If it's Varos's trap, then we fight smarter, not harder," he cut in, voice fierce, yanking her to her feet with both hands, grip unyielding. His eyes locked on hers, wild with determination. "Trust me? Say it." She swallowed hard, nodding. "I trust you." A Zeth patrol frigate decloaked low over the canyon. Iron resolve, hull scarred from old battles, searchlights sweeping the banks like accusing fingers. Tractor beam locked, gentle but firm, lifting them aboard in a hum of energy. Captain Thren greeted in the docking bay, face neutral under the helm, but eyes suspicious slits darting between them. Commander Ardent, Pilot Drake, the Empire thought you dead. Conveniently. Selene straightened tall, water dripping in puddles, chin high despite the shiver. Reports exaggerated. We have proof. Thren's brow arched. Proof requires a tribunal. Quarters assigned, sterile white, monitored cams blinking red, door sealed with a hiss. Selene paced immediate, hacking the ship's comms subtle with a jury-rigged pad, while Elias stood watch, feigning casual lean against the wall. Varos's broadcast crackled, marriage annulled. Subjects deceased in Valera crash. Honor restored. Her breath hitched, betrayal burning hot, eyes glazing with fury. He's erasing us, like we never existed. Elias's jaw clenched so tight it ached, fist thumping the bulkhead soft but resounding. Not if we erase him first. What's the play? Evidence broadcast, now, she said, voice steel, but her hand shook inserting the shard. He covered it with his, steadying. Breathe. We do this together. In her private chambers aboard Zeth Prime, the Empress watched falsified footage. Wreckage labeled Concordant Dawn, bodies unidentifiable. If the Union fails, so does my vision of peace. A single tear traced her cheek, resolve hardening like diamond. She keyed a private channel. Find them. Selene and Elias moved quiet through maintenance corridors. Armory raid under fake cycle alert. Stun grenades tucked into belts, not lethals. No blood if we can help it, she whispered, but her eyes blazed. He nodded, but his grip on the grenade trembled with restrained rage. For the ones who believed in us. Brig lockdown, Thren inside, protesting loud. This is mutiny. Selene sealed the door cold. It's justice. Bridge seized in a blur. Selene at Central Command, broadcasting temple evidence galaxy-wide. Varos's voice damning, logs irrefutable. Crew froze, then split. Loyalists rallying. Hold the line, she ordered, voice cracking with passion. Varos countered instant, interdiction order blaring, 12 cruisers converging from hyperspace, weapons hot and locking. Iron resolve shuddered under first hits, hull plating buckling, alarms wailing shrill. Selene plotted microjump frantic, asteroid belt vector insane, but their only shot. Elias, manual fly, now! He slid into pilot seat, hands flying yokes like old times. Hold on tight, this'll be rough as hell. Hull breaches sparked wild, sparks cascading, crew scrambling to loyal stations. Selene gripped the console, white-knuckled voice raw over comms. All stations, evasive pattern delta, shields to forward. A blast rocked brutal. Elias yanked the ship sideways hard, threading needles between tumbling rocks the size of frigates. Too close, incoming, he yelled, sweat flying, eyes wide with adrenaline fire. She reached across, frantic, hand clamping his arm, steadying, trusting, desperate. Engines roared defiance. The belt a deadly maze of stone and ice. Cruisers' fire lancing past. Selene's heart pounded visible in her throat. Fear and fire intertwined. We make Zeth Prime. We end this nightmare. Elias glanced mid-maneuver, eyes locking fierce amid chaos. For us, for everything they tried to kill. The ship screamed through the gauntlet, hull groaning, cruisers closing like wolves as the jump point beckoned beyond the storm. Docking clamps thudded home with a bone-jarring clang. Iron resolve shuddering into Zeth Prime's orbital cradle, hull scarred deep from asteroid kisses and cruiser fire, plasma venting in lazy spirals. Selene burst from the bridge first, shard clenched in her fist like a dagger. Elias half a step behind, ribs taped tight under fresh bandages, face pale and drawn but eyes blazing with unquenched fire. Guards swarmed the bay, rifles snapping up in a wall of gleaming muzzles. Stand down, that's an order, she roared, voice cracking raw with exhaustion and fury that had built for days. Loyalists pushed through the ranks, parting the crowd like a blade through silk. Elias gripped her elbow hard, anchor in the storm, fingers digging in with desperate strength. We're here. It's time. Don't you dare falter now. Grand Tribunal reconvened in emergency frenzy. Crystalline chamber packed shoulder to shoulder, neural crowns flickering frantic pulses of shared shock and doubt. Vero stood center stage in full Admiral regalia, metals gleaming cold like accusations under the lights. Fabrication, all of it, he thundered, finger jabbing at Celine like a weapon. Human mind control, she's corrupted, twisted by alien filth. Celine stepped forward unflinching, shard raised high in trembling fingers. Your voice, Admiral, your orders, play them. Holoscreens ignited across the chamber, logs unspooling in Veros's own clipped tones, damning every syllable. Court gasped collective, crowns stuttering in chaotic shock, light threads snapping like broken nerves. Varos's face twisted hideous, rage boiling over, veins bulging, eyes wild with cornered madness. Lies! Forged! Hidden pulse pistol whipped out from his sleeve, energy lance streaking blue-hot toward Celine's chest, time slowing to a crawl. Elias dove without thought, body slamming hers aside with brutal force, blast searing across his torso in a flash of molten agony. Armor melted instant, flesh charring black, pain ripping a guttural scream from his throat as he hit the deck hard, smoke curling acrid. He rolled weak, hand reaching blind for her through the haze. Celine, run! Get clear! She caught him mid-fall, arms wrapping desperate around his crumpling form, tears hot and sudden on her cheeks, uncontrolled, furious. No, Elias, stay with me, please. Her voice broke raw, terror crashing with love, fury at the universe for daring this. Chaos erupted absolute, guards clashing in a storm of shouts and energy blades igniting blue, loyalists versus extremists colliding like tidal waves. Celine seized the tribunal gavel from the dais, slamming it thunderous against the crystal, crack echoing like judgment. Lock down, now! Neutralize Veros and his traitors! Her orders cut razor sharp through the din, voice trembling but forged in iron resolve. Elias coughed wet, blood flecking his lips, gripping her hands slick with sweat and char. Finish it for us, he wheezed, eyes locking on hers, pain glazed but fierce with trust. A young Zeth page in the upper gallery watched wide-eyed from the shadows. The human shielded her, through his life like it was nothing. That's not weakness. That's something the Empire forgot. The thought rippled outward through the chamber like a wave crashing silence. Varos lunged desperate through the melee, pistol swinging wild for another shot. Selene rolled Elias clear with a grunt, snatching a fallen energy blade from the deck. For every lie, every death you ordered, she screamed, voice shattering with grief-fueled rage, blade clashing sparks against his pistol in a whirlwind disarm. He staggered back, weapons skittering away. You were my mentor. Loyal guards swarmed instant, dragging the Admiral down screaming incoherently. Traitor, you'll burn the stars! Chamber reeked heavy of ozone, scorched flesh, shattered illusions crumbling like dust. Medics rushed Elias in a flurry, regeneration field humming urgent blue, nanites swarming to knit charred tissue in frantic waves. Celine knelt beside the pod, hand pressed to his cheek, tears falling free, unashamed. You idiot! Why did you? I can't lose you! He managed a weak, pain-twisted grin, voice hoarse whisper. Couldn't let you go alone. Not after everything. Her sob choked out, relief flooding like a dam break, fingers intertwining with his. Tribunal fell silent around them, watching the bond they'd tried to forge in punishment now unbreakable. Forged in fire, sealed in sacrifice. Regeneration pod hummed soft in the medbay. Zeth nanites weaving lung tissue thread by thread. Human stubbornness keeping Elias conscious through the haze. Celine refused to leave, perched on the pod's edge, hand never leaving his. Monitors beeped steady, color crept back to his cheeks. Hey, told you I'd stick around, he murmured, voice gravel but warm. She squeezed his fingers, tears dried but eyes shining fierce. Don't scare me like that again. From the pod's side terminal, she recorded, public channel, no filters. What began as punishment, I now choose freely. Her voice steady, gaze on Elias. This union isn't politics, it's us. Broadcast rippled to every colony, screens flickering in markets, barracks, homes. The Empress entered unannounced. Robes simple, crown dim. She watched the feed replay, then Celine's face. You forced my hand, she said soft. Celine stood, chin high. Good. Change it. A pause, heavy, electric. The Empress nodded once. Old decree dissolved. Celestial accord signed in the tribunal hall. Humanity granted 12 council seats. Interspecies unions legalized galaxy-wide. Cheers echoed faint through bulkheads. Elias watched from a hover chair, Celine at his side. Think they'll let us pick our own quarters now? He asked, voice hoarse but teasing. She smiled, first genuine, soft and real. Ours, no cameras. Crystal balcony at triple sunset. 3 suns bleeding amber across the horizon. Celine helped Elias stand, his arm around her shoulders. Weight shared, no pretense. Hand found hand without cameras watching. Fleet salutes rippled silent across the sky. Orderly, hopeful pinpricks of light. Beautiful, he whispered. She leaned into him. We made it. Fade on their silhouettes. 2 figures against fading light. A new age beginning not with decree, but with 2 people who chose each other across stars and scars.